Are you ready to rest? Not just your body, but your mind? Let the timeless wisdom of the Buddha guide your heart home. What if I told you that the hardest moments of your life, the times your heart broke, your job collapsed, or a relationship ended, were actually secret invitations? We often think of suffering as an accident. We treat it as something to be fought, avoided, and eventually cured. But the ancient wisdom of Buddhism suggests a different view. Every storm is not a punishment, but a doorway into the deeper dimensions of yourself, where true freedom is waiting. This is the teaching of impermanence, Anicca. Redefining impermanence, not loss, but liberation. When we hear the word impermanence, we usually think immediately of loss. Everything will die. Everything will dissolve. Everything will change. This terrifies us. We feel as if the universe is constantly snatching our most cherished things away. But impermanence is not just the disappearance of joy. Impermanence is the flowing nature of all things, and that includes your pain. Think of impermanence not as an enemy, but as your liberating lawyer. It reminds you, this pain will not last forever. This stuck place is not a life sentence. This victim status is not your fixed identity. Impermanence is your permission to change. If everything were fixed, you would be forever defined by the failures and mistakes of yesterday. But precisely because of impermanence, you always have the chance to recreate yourself in the very next moment. The river analogy. Why we clench, imagine life as a vast river. Driven by our desire for control and our fear of change, we often try to hold onto the river water with both hands. We try to clutch the feeling of yesterday's happiness, keep a changing relationship the same, or freeze a perfect moment we experienced. We stubbornly cling to a fixed idea of how things should be. The past. You suffer because you are clinging to a version of your ex-lover, your old job, or your former health. The future. You worry because you are clinging to a rigid expectation of tomorrow. The problem is, the river water never stands still. It always flows. Trying to hold on to the water is not only futile, it's painful. When you tighten your grip, the river, life, simply leaks through your fingers, leaving you with tired, empty, and disappointed hands. This pain is not caused by the river, but by your clinging. In Buddhism, this clinging is called the origin of suffering, samudaya. The illusion of control, our biggest mistake, is confusing craving, wanting a good life, with the need to control, insisting life must unfold exactly according to my plan. You can crave love, but if you demand that the love must come from one specific person, at one specific time, in one specific way, you are manufacturing the conditions for suffering. Impermanence teaches us, keep the craving, but release the control. The surfing comparison. You cannot command the wave, life event, to stop or go your way. You can only learn to ride the wave, adjusting your posture and accepting its momentum. This act is alignment with impermanence. The open hand practice. You don't need to sit for hours in meditation to practice impermanence. You can apply it right now with a simple exercise, the open hand practice. Whenever you feel anxious, angry, or stuck, notice the clench. Stop and identify what you are clenching. It could be an idea, I shouldn't have failed, an emotion, this anger is mine, or an expectation, everything must go back to the way it was. Recognize that the act of clinging is causing more pain than the situation itself. The release. Slowly open your physical hands, palms up. Use this physical action as a symbol for releasing the emotion and idea that is clenching your mind. Exhale and whisper, "This too shall pass." Anicca. Focus on the flow. Direct your attention to something currently flowing. Your breath, the sounds around you, or running water from a tap. Remind yourself that everything is moving and you can move with it. When you do this, you are not giving up. You are re-choosing the fight. You stop struggling against the universe's change, impermanence, and start using that energy to build what is possible in the present moment. Impermanence, therefore, is your permission to live fully. It frees you from the burden of the past and the control of the future. We've seen that impermanence is the key to letting go of control. But if your identity is also in flux, who exactly is doing the letting go? If the I we are trying to protect is not fixed, where does this suffering originate? In the next section, we'll explore the self through the teaching of non-self, Anatta, discovering why letting go of your fixed identity is the most powerful move you can make. We've talked about impermanence, the ever-changing nature of life. Now we must face an even harder truth. The source of suffering is not the change itself, but your struggle against it. Imagine a dramatic image. You are in a life or death struggle, but you are not fighting an external enemy. You are fighting a dream tiger. This struggle is perfectly illustrated by the metaphor, drop the rope. When clinging hurts more than the suffering, picture yourself in a hopeless game of tug-of-war. On one side is you, gripping the rope tightly. On the other side is not a person, but reality, which includes what has already happened. Impermanence, the pain you feel, or the person who left you. Your goal is to pull reality over to your side. You want to pull the sadness away so it disappears, pull the person back so they return, or pull the failure so it becomes success. But reality, by the laws of impermanence and dependent origination, never gets pulled back. It is powerful, objective, and unmoving. The result: the harder you pull, the deeper the rope, clinging, cuts into your hands, mind, causing friction and pain. The initial pain, e.g. loss, might have been a small bruise, but the pain from the struggle, e.g. resentment, denial of the truth, is a wound that never heals. The drop the rope moment is a moment of awakening. It's when you suddenly realize, I am hurting myself. This battle is futile. This is not a surrender or an acceptance of defeat. It is the smartest action you can take, withdrawing energy from the struggle and using it for reconstruction. The craving to be fixed. In the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha taught that the origin of suffering, samudaya, is craving, tanha. Craving has three forms, and we are dealing with the two most powerful ones here. Sense craving. Craving for pleasant things, wanting joy to last. Craving for becoming existence. Craving for permanence, for things to be fixed. Wanting things not to change, wanting to hold on to the self. The moment you clench the rope is when craving for becoming is active. It whispers, this failure is not allowed to happen. My identity must be that of a successful person, and this relationship must be eternal. Dropping the rope breaks that chain of craving. You are saying to your mind, though this is painful, I accept that it is this way. I don't need to control it to be okay. Mindfulness, the practice of dropping the rope. Drop the rope isn't a single rational decision. It's a continuous practice nourished by mindfulness, sati. Mindfulness is the act of accepting everything exactly as it is. It is not agreement, it is noting. Without mindfulness, when you lose your job, the mind jumps in. This is awful. I'm a failure. I must find another job immediately. Everything is unfair. This is clenching the rope. With mindfulness, dropping the rope. Note the event. The company laid me off. Reality. Note the feeling. There is a feeling of fear coming up. There is a sense of sadness taking hold. Release the judgment. The fear is here. It is just a feeling. It is not me. By taking this simple approach, you create space between the event and your reaction. That space is where you can put the rope down. You still feel the pain, but you are no longer responsible for making the pain worse. Let's use a more relatable example. The itchy sweater. Scenario. Imagine you have to wear a scratchy, rough wool sweater symbolizing a difficult situation or an irritating relationship. The default reaction, clenching the rope. You start scratching frantically, groaning and constantly thinking, "This sweater is terrible. It shouldn't itch. I hate it." The more you scratch, the rawer and itchier your skin becomes. The pain is no longer from the sweater, but from your act of resistance. The mindful reaction, dropping the rope. You accept that the sweater is itchy, impermanent reality. You make a mental note. There is an itchy sensation here. Itching, itching. Then you gently put your hands down. You still feel the itch, but the tension and the burning sensation from scratching subside. You have ended the tug of war with the reality of the sweater. The takeaway: acceptance is not the same as liking. Acceptance is simply acknowledging the truth of what is happening. Only from this acknowledgement can you act wisely. To practice drop the rope immediately, use this 3-step mindfulness formula. See, whenever you feel stress or anger, see where the tension is happening in your body. Clenched jaw, tight chest, tense shoulders. This is how you physicalize the clinging. Pause. Stop all action and speech. Allow yourself about 3 seconds just to observe the sensation, doing nothing else. This moment is the precious free pause. Breathe. Take a slow, deep breath. As you exhale, soften the place where your body is clenching. Jaw, shoulders, chest. When you soften the body, you are sending a signal to the mind that, "I have put the rope down." This is how you create space in the mind, space for Buddhist wisdom to operate, space for you to stop being a victim of craving. If you continue the tug of war, you remain the one who is stuck. If you let go, you automatically fall back towards yourself, reclaiming your energy and freedom. The drop the rope moment is a powerful action, but it raises a fundamental question. If everything is impermanent, and I have let go of clinging, what is being let go of? If feelings, thoughts, and the body are all changing, then what is the I that I am trying to protect? The mind as a house. Setting boundaries with emotion. In the previous 2 sections, we learned how to face impermanence and practice dropping the rope to release our struggle with reality. But after letting go, the next question is, now what do I do with the difficult emotions surging inside? When you lose your job, you feel fear. When you are betrayed, you feel anger. When you break up, you feel overwhelming sadness. Most of us get stuck here because we confuse the emotion with ourselves. This is where we need the metaphor of the mind as a house. Imagine your mind is a large, comfortable house. This house has a living room, a kitchen, a study, and most importantly, your private bedroom. Suffering, anxiety, anger, fear, these are simply visiting guests. You, the awareness, the clear consciousness, are the host. The problem is, we usually do the opposite. When these difficult guests knock, we don't just invite them in. We hand them the keys to our bedroom. We let the fear take over our entire identity. I don't just feel fear, I am fear. In Buddhism, this act is called identification. This is where the teachings of non-self, Anatta, and mindfulness converge. We talked about the 5 aggregates, 5 skandhas, the 5 components that make up human experience: form, feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness. Suffering, anxiety, and fear primarily fall into the groups of feeling and perception, idea. When you say, I am feeling anxious, that is true. But when you say, I am an anxious person, you have violated the principle of non-self. You have turned a temporary feeling into a fixed identity, self. The goal of mindfulness meditation is not to kick the guests out, but to learn how to open the door to them. Mindfulness notes their presence, but firmly refuse to let them take over your bedroom, not identifying with the self. The open door policy: if you try to chase an unwanted guest away, they will only knock harder. Similarly, if you try to suppress or ignore fear, it will build up energy in the basement of the mind and erupt more powerfully later. Mindfulness is your open door policy. When anxiety knocks, you don't have to throw the door open so anxiety can rush in, embrace you, and tell you about every impending disaster. You just open the door, stand at the threshold, and note its presence. Anxiety is here. I see you. When anger knocks, you don't have to let anger run into the kitchen and smash the dishes. You simply stand in the living room and say, anger is arising. I feel it as heat in my chest. The simple act of naming the emotion without judgment is the action of an aware host. You are setting a psychological boundary. I know who you are, anxiety. I see where you are in my body, but I am not you. You are a passing mental state, not my permanent self. Let's look at the example of Hannah, a friend of mine who lost her dream job. Before non-self, identification, Hannah felt like she had fallen into a black hole. She said, I wasn't just fired, I am the failure. I am unworthy. This black hole is me. She let the fear of failure take over her bedroom, her study, and her living room. She slept with the fear, ate with the fear, and spoke to everyone through the fear. After mindfulness, setting boundaries, Hannah learned to pause. When the feeling of I am a failure arose, she closed her eyes and noted, there is a judging thought here. There is a feeling of emptiness here. She didn't argue with the thought. She simply saw it as a noisy guest sitting on the living room sofa. As a result, Hannah still felt sad, but the sadness no longer defined her. She remained the host, keeping the clarity to plan for tomorrow because her private bedroom, core awareness, remained safe. The next time a difficult emotion visits you, anxiety, anger, shame, apply this host formula. Name the guest. Pause and name the visitor. Hello, anger. Hello, loneliness. This act of naming immediately creates the necessary distance, mindfulness. assign the room. Tell yourself, anger is allowed to be in the living room, my chest and shoulders, but it is not allowed to sleep in the bedroom, my core awareness. The breath is the key. Use your breath as a reminder that your body is the boundary. As you exhale, you loosen your muscles. You are telling the guest, you can be here, but you are not in control. I am the host. In this way, you are practicing non-self very concretely. You are refusing to equate a temporary feeling with the permanent truth of who you are. You are reclaiming your power and freedom. We've learned how to accept impermanence and how to set boundaries with emotions, visiting guests. But now, having dropped the rope and no longer being controlled by feelings, we must face the most important question. After letting go, what do I do with this new energy? In the next section, we will shift from why me to what now, harnessing the power of karma to rebuild our lives from the rubble. The power of what now. Shifting from victim to creator, we've traveled the path of letting go, accepting impermanence, that everything changes, and dropping the rope, releasing the struggle with reality. Let's assume you've done that. You've opened your mind to the visiting guests' sadness, fear, without letting them take over your bedroom. Now you stand in the space between the event that happened and the future that hasn't formed yet. This is the most critical moment. In that space, our minds tend to revert to a programmed question, an almost instinctive reaction to all suffering. Why me? While it sounds harmless, this question is a subtle trap. It immediately pulls you back into the position of the victim. It places your attention entirely on the past and the universe's perceived injustice. From a Buddhist perspective, repeatedly asking, why me, is not just a waste of time. It creates the karma of complaint. Karma, not fate, but intentional action to escape this trap. We must clearly understand the teaching of karma. Most people, especially in the West, view karma as a massive cosmic ledger where God or some deity is recording all your bad deeds for punishment. They see karma as fate. But the Buddha taught that karma is not punishment. Karma is simply action, or more accurately, intentional action. Karma is intention, I say. The Buddha karma is the moral physical law of the universe, cause and effect. It is cold, objective, and without personal emotion. The most important truth about karma is this: your karma is not in the past. It is in the present, the past. The results, phala of old karma, have ripened. You lost your job, you were betrayed, you became ill. Those things are fixed reality. You cannot change the fruit that has ripened. The present, you have total power to sow new karma, new seeds, through your actions, speech, and thoughts. When you ask, why me? And you are creating the karma of complaint. You sow seeds of resentment, close your heart off to help, and willingly prolong your suffering. The moment of liberation occurs when you pivot from why me to what now. This is the action of the creator, not the victim. Victim mindset, karma of complaint. Creator mindset, new karma. Focal point, past, injustice. Focal point, present, possibility, emotion, anger, resentment, paralysis, emotion, acceptance, curiosity, determination, energy, closing off, clenching, energy, opening up, softening, result, recreating the pain, prolonging karma, result, sowing seeds of new action, transforming karma. Xuatsang, tranquil, the question, what now, is the question of right mindfulness and right intention in the Eightfold Path. It forces your mind to leave the endless loop of analyzing the past and redirects your focus to the actionable present reality. A practical example, romantic betrayal. Let's look at a familiar example, betrayal in a relationship. Impermanent event. The relationship ends. Trust is broken. Victim reaction, why me? Thoughts, I did everything right. I deserve better. I can't believe he, she did that to me. Action, sending angry texts, stalking social media, complaining to everyone to solidify the victim role. New karma. This person is sowing seeds of anger, resentment, and clinging to their victim image. They are creating new karma, negative speech, vengeful action that will shape their future relationships towards similar breakdowns. Creator. Reaction. What now? Mindfulness, noting, dropping the rope. There is deep pain here. There is a feeling of betrayal. I see it, but I am not it. From the previous section. Creative action. Shifting attention. What now? I will write down all the lessons I've learned. I will dedicate time to the hobby I neglected. I will call the friend who helps me rebuild my self-worth. I will exercise to release the toxic energy. New karma. This person is sowing seeds of self-care, learning, resilience, and self-compassion. They are using the energy of the breakdown to build a better future. In both scenarios, the initial event doesn't change, but the new karma, your intentional action, completely changes their future trajectory. The power of karma is not in accounting for your mistakes, but in your power of choice right now. The 3-breath pivot switch. How do you interrupt the why me loop and activate the what now mindset? Use the 3-breath pivot switch with mindfulness. Breath 1. Identify the old karma. When the feeling of stuckness or resentment appears, take the first deep breath. As you exhale, note that you are in victim mode. I'm feeling lousy and blaming. Okay, I see it. Breath 2. Drop the rope. Take the second deep breath. As you exhale, physically loosen your grip. Jaw, hands, stomach. Imagine setting the rope down. You are practicing the acceptance of impermanence at a bodily level. Breath 3. Sow new karma. Take the third deep breath. As you exhale, force your mind to ask, what is the smallest, simplest thing I can do right now to improve this situation by 1%? If you are hurt, I will stand up and drink a glass of water. If you are stuck at work, I will open my computer and only read the headline of one article about the industry I'm interested in. If you are angry, I will walk for 5 minutes without looking at my phone. This is the sowing of the smallest seed of right mindfulness and right effort. You don't need to change the world immediately. You only need to change your intentional action in the next 5 seconds. Karma is the ultimate tool the Buddha gave you for transformation. You cannot change what has happened, but you can change how you respond to it, and that is all that creates karma. The identity burden. Who is the host? We've activated our power of action, new karma, and seen that the strength of creation lies in the question, what now? But if everything is flowing, if both our sadness and identity are temporary guests, who is the person taking this what now action? We've learned to accept impermanence, that everything external flows like a river. We've practiced dropping the rope, releasing the struggle with suffering, and realized emotions are just temporary visiting guests. Excellent. But when everything around us is changing, and even our emotions are just passing visitors, who is left? Most people, especially in modern culture, carry an enormous identity burden. We spend our lives constructing an ideal self from the fragments of the past, the expectations of others, and past successes or failures. When a major crisis hits, like loss or failure, this self is deeply wounded, and instead of accepting that wound as impermanent, we rigidly box ourselves in with fixed labels. The identity burden. Who is the host? Continued. When you assign yourself such a fixed label, you are creating a cement statue of yourself. You are telling the universe, this is who I am, and I will never change. What causes the most pain? The event that happened. The clinging to the story about that event. I am a failure, and I will always be a failure. The Buddhist teaching of non-self, Anatta, comes to liberate us from this second burden, from this frozen statue. Non-self, radical liberation. Non-self is not a dark philosophy. It is a radically liberating teaching. Non-self does not mean you don't exist. It means you don't exist as a fixed, independent and permanent self. As we've discussed, everything is a flow. Your body changes cells with every passing moment. Your thoughts change instantly. Your identity is also a flowing process. Imagine you are watching a movie of your life. Every scene is you, but the you in scene 10 is different from the you in scene 100. Yesterday's you was a person who made a decision, right or wrong. Today's you is a person who is learning a lesson from that decision. Non-self is the guarantee that you are never trapped by the mistake, the pain, or the shame of the past. If you failed yesterday, that was the fruit of old karma ripening, but non-self ensures that you are not permanently defined by that fruit. You can sow new karma, different intentional actions, and become a different person in the very next moment. Non-self is your permission to be reborn every day without having to die. It opens the door to forgiveness of yourself and endless growth. Breaking the consistency. Trapped in Western culture, we are easily obsessed with the narrative of consistency. We feel we must always act a certain way to maintain our character. But Buddhism sees everything as dependent origination, paticca samuppada, including who you are. Your angry action arose due to a collection of conditions: lack of sleep, work stress, an insulting word, and an old mental habit. When you make a mistake, don't use the perception aggregate, the label, to judge yourself. I am a terrible person. Use the wisdom of non-self to analyze. This angry action arose due to a combination of X, lack of sleep, I, work pressure, and Z, old reaction habit. Now the conditions X, Y, and Z have passed. The anger no longer exists. The I that produced that action has also flowed away. I am the one observing that flow, and I have the capacity to sow seeds of compassion for myself right now. Non-self frees you from the hopeless task of defending an identity that never truly existed. The old mistake is not a life sentence, but sacred ground where you sow the seeds of deeper understanding. The sunlight analogy. Think about the sunlight streaming through your window. If you place a potted plant there, the sunlight nurtures it, kind action. If you place a pile of garbage there, the sunlight makes it fester, unmindful action. The sunlight, non-self nature, never changes. It is simply clarity, potential. The object you place under the sunlight, mental formations, new karma, determines the outcome. You are not the garbage pile, old mistake. You are not the houseplant, new success. You are the sunlight, a non-self entity, always ready to illuminate and nurture whatever you choose to put into the present. Non-self reminds us, no matter what your past actions were, the potential for awareness and goodness remains untouched within you, completely unstained. The identity experiment to put non-self into practice. Try a simple exercise called the identity experiment for the next 24 hours. Identify the label. Choose one negative label you frequently use to define yourself. I am incompetent. I am a procrastinator. I am shy, separate. When you feel that label arise, pause and say, this is an old mental tendency, mental formation arising. It is not a promise about my future. It is not me. The new me action. Imagine you are putting on a new cloak, the identity of the resilient person, the person who acts, the courageous person, just for 5 minutes. Sow new karma. Then, take one small conscious action that contradicts the old label. E.g., instead of procrastinating, work on the task for 2 minutes. Every such action is a living demonstration of non-self. You have proven that you are not defined by the old mistake, because your self is a limitless flow of change. Non-self liberates you from the exhaustion of having to defend a false identity. Knowing the self through the 5 aggregates, Panchakanda, we have experienced the freedom of not being defined by old mistakes, thanks to non-self. But how do we amplify this understanding? If the self is just a flow, a temporary combination, we need to understand it more clearly. In the last section, we confirmed non-self is not a denial of your existence, but your liberation from the burden of a fixed identity. Your identity is a flow, not a statue. But how do we truly let go of something we've spent our whole lives building and protecting? How do we stop saying, I am anxiety or I am a failure? We need to know our experience intimately. We need a detailed blueprint of our psychological structure to clearly see where we've made the confusion. That blueprint is the 5 aggregates, Panchakanda. The Buddha taught that what we call I, or the ego, self, is actually just a temporary collection of these 5 groups of elements, skandhas. They are constantly changing, constantly interacting, and never stable. Suffering arises when we cling to any one of these 5 aggregates and proclaim, this is me, this is mine, this is myself. Let's dive into each aggregate to see how they create the confusion about your identity. Aggregate 1, form, rupa, the physical body, definition. Includes your physical body in all external physical objects. This is the most visible and easiest part to recognize as impermanent. The clinging. We cling to a fixed image of the body, its health, youth, appearance. When the body ages, falls ill, or changes, we experience intense suffering because that change contradicts our expectation. Non-self lesson. Your body is an ecosystem, a borrowing from earth, water, wind, and fire, constantly changing cells. It is a temporary dwelling, not who you are. Have you ever cried when your car got scratched? No, because you know it's not you. Treat your body with gratitude and care, but don't confuse it with your core essence. Aggregate 2, feeling, Vedana. Sensation definition. This is the first and most basic experience of all contact. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, the clinging. This is where psychological suffering begins. When a pleasant feeling comes, e.g., a compliment, we cling to it, craving. wanting it to last forever. When an unpleasant feeling, pain, sadness comes, we resist it, aversion. Non-self lesson. Feelings are guests that come and go. We often say, I am sad. But Buddhist wisdom invites you to say, a feeling of sadness is experiencing itself through me. In this way, you separate yourself from the feeling. An unpleasant feeling is merely a signal, data, not your master. Aggregate 3. Perception, sanya. Recognition, perception, definition. The way you label and identify the world. This is the mind's classification system. This is a table. This is an enemy. This is an opportunity. The clinging. We cling to the narrative we tell ourselves about the world and ourselves. When you lose a job, the perception aggregate labels it. You are a failure. When someone else is angry, the perception aggregate labels them. They are a malicious person. Non-self lesson. Perception is based on assumptions. We easily forget that labels are just convenient tools for operating, not the absolute truth. Failure is only a name for a series of impermanent events, not the ultimate truth about who you are. Letting go of the perception aggregate helps you see the world and yourself freshly, without prejudice, in every moment. Aggregate 4. Mental formations, sankhara. Intentional actions and habitual tendencies, definition. This is intention and habitual tendencies. It includes your disposition to act, e.g., the tendency to procrastinate, to be kind, to be angry. This is where karma is sown. The clinging. We often say, I am a hot-tempered person. I can't change. This is clinging to an old habit as if it were a core part of the identity. Non-self lesson. Mental formations are programs that can be rewritten. Your tendency to procrastinate is not you. It's just old software that needs updating. You can use the power of mindfulness to create a pause and sow new karma, a different intentional action, immediately. Your mental formations are the blueprint you are redrawing every day. Aggregate 5. Consciousness, vijnana. Basic awareness definition. Basic recognition or consciousness. Consciousness arises when there is contact between the senses. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind and their corresponding objects, sights, sounds, etc. The clinging. We think our consciousness is a fixed observer sitting in the head, but consciousness is also impermanent. It changes depending on the object being perceived. The consciousness seeing light is different from the consciousness hearing a sound. Non-self. Lesson. Your consciousness is a window opening to the world, not the person standing behind the window. It is a function, not an entity. Letting go of clinging to consciousness helps you realize the true observer is not contained within these 5 aggregates, but is the pure awareness that lies outside them. The cake of suffering. A practical analysis. Imagine you are arguing with a loved one and say something hurtful. Immediately afterward, you feel regret and tell yourself, I am a terrible person. Let's analyze this cake of suffering. Form and consciousness. Words go out. Sounds are heard. Contact. Feeling. An immediate feeling of unpleasantness and tension. Perception. The mistake. The mind immediately labels, you are a terrible person. The identification, mental formations. You clench your jaw, deciding to withdraw and isolate yourself. Negative mental formations are reinforced. The wisdom of non-self invites you to pause at the feeling and perception aggregates. I see a feeling of regret here, feeling. This feeling is flowing. I see a judgmental thought, terrible person, is labeling, perception. It's just a story, not an eternal truth. By doing this, you are not a terrible person. You are simply a person experiencing a feeling of regret. This separation is liberation. It allows you to drop the terrible person label and immediately sow new mental formations. Apologize, correct the action, return to part 4. What now? Next time you feel a negative emotion defining you, fear, jealousy, shame, apply this aggregate filter in your mind. What emotion is this? Check feeling. Name the feeling. This is anxiety. What story comes with it? Check perception. Name the label. The story is, I can't do this job. Am I it? Apply non-self. Ask back. Is anxiety my body? Is anxiety my pure awareness? Is anxiety always here? Softening. Realize that the anxiety is just a temporary combination of feeling and perception. Exhale and say, it's all just aggregates. I am the host, not the aggregates. Realizing that the 5 aggregates are not you grants you immense humility. You realize you are just an element in a complex system, not a fixed, central entity of the universe. The space of freedom. The moment between stimulus and response. We've understood the self is just an ever-changing combination of the 5 aggregates. This is the truth of our inner nature, but this truth leads us to the truth of external nature. Not only does the self not exist independently, but nothing in this universe exists independently. Every event, from a storm to a smile, is woven from countless conditions. In the next part, we will broaden our view to see this through the teaching of dependent origination, Paticca Samuppada, exploring why suffering is never solo, and how this understanding brings deep humility and gratitude. Have you ever experienced regret immediately after an outburst of anger? An unintended comment from a colleague, a car cutting you off in traffic, an email criticizing your work. Immediately, you feel tension, your blood pressure rises, and your mouth prepares to utter a reply you know will be harmful. You react automatically, like a machine. Only seconds later do you ask yourself, why did I say that? That's not who I am. That moment is evidence that you are stuck in the automatic reflex trap. The event, trigger, happens. The reaction appears. There is almost no space between the event and the reaction. We are being controlled by old karma, the habitual, programmed tendencies within the mental formations, part 4, that have been running for decades. That action was not your free choice. It was old software running, and as long as you are controlled by these reflexes, you will never truly be free. You remain a victim of craving, wanting the unpleasant feeling to disappear immediately. The Buddha's wisdom offers an elegant solution. Instead of trying to change the external event, which is impermanent, or trying to control the reaction, which is hopeless, we must create the space. This space is where personal freedom is found. This is the only place where you reclaim power from old habits. The teaching of concentration, samadhi, calm abiding, stillness, plays a crucial role here. Concentration is not just sitting motionless in meditation. Concentration is the ability to keep the mind steady and not be immediately swept away by the unfolding event. When your mind achieves concentration, even for a brief moment, it creates the space event. Input, the space. Concentration plus mindfulness. New reaction. Free choice. This moment is the intersection where old karma, the habit of anger, can be blocked, and new karma, compassionate or wise action, can be sown, part 4. This is where non-self becomes most useful, because you know you are not the fixed self. Part 5. You don't need to defend it with the old reaction. You can choose a new identity within that space. When concentration creates the space, mindfulness, sati, jumps in and does its job. Mindfulness has one simple superpower: noting without non-judgmental. Let's return to the example of the critical work email. The event. You read the email. The automatic reflex, old karma. The mind instantly reacts. That's unfair. I must prove them wrong. This is the clinging of craving. The space, thanks to concentration. You've trained yourself to take a deep breath. Even for 1 second, you've created the space. Mindfulness, non-self, intervenes. Noting feeling. There is a hot, burning sensation rising in the chest. Noting perception. There is a defensive thought arising, wanting to attack back. Freedom of choice. Because you have named these feelings and thoughts, the visiting guests, part 3, and no longer identify them as me, you can decide, I will not let this burning sensation write the reply for me. You reclaim your power. The slow action of taking your fingers off the keyboard, going out to get a glass of water, or waiting 5 minutes before writing is an act of ultimate freedom. Think of your body as a race car, programmed to speed off at the velocity of old karma. That's a powerful continuation of the metaphor. Here is the translation into natural, American Standard English. When an event occurs, the car immediately accelerates according to old habits: anger, anxiety, procrastination. The space is not about trying to steer the car, which is difficult when moving fast. It's about pulling the emergency brake. That emergency brake button is the mindful breath. When you notice the tension, your body clenching, your jaw grinding, your heart rate rising, you don't immediately try to eliminate the anger. That is impermanent. You simply activate the mindful breath button and hold the mind steady. This stability, samadhi, slows the car down enough for you to look at the map, non-self, and decide, what now, new karma? You shift from being swept away by a reflex to consciously creating a response. The emergency brake in action, procrastination. Procrastination is an incredibly common form of old karma. The event. You need to do an important task, writing a report, making a difficult call. The automatic reflex. The old mental formations arise. This is too hard. I feel unpleasant. I'll just scroll social media for 5 minutes. The avoidance reflex. The pause. You remember the teaching and take a deep breath. Mindfulness intervenes. Feeling aggregate. There is a feeling of dread. Here, perception aggregate. There is a procrastinating thought labeling. This report is too difficult. Freedom of choice. You drop the label of procrastinator, non-self, and replace it with a tiny piece of new karma. Part 4. I just need to write one heading, just one sentence. This may not be an easy win, but it is freedom because you have successfully interrupted the old karma and sown a new seed of intention. Here is how you apply the space immediately in any stressful situation. Spot the pressure, quick notice. When you feel the event happening, an insult, a nasty email, a car horn, quickly identify the first physical sensation in your body. tension in the shoulders, heat in the ears, a clench in the gut. Activate the brake. Breath 1. Take one deep, slow breath. As you exhale, silently say, pause. This is the simplest activation of concentration. Apply non-self. Breath 2. Take another breath. As you exhale, completely relax the physical sensation that is tensing up. Remind yourself, this is just a passing feeling. It is not me. Separate the feeling aggregate. Action of freedom. Breath 3. Take the final breath. As you exhale, ask the question, what is the wisest action I can take right now? This wise action is your new karma. Practicing this pause is training your right concentration, samadhi, from the Eightfold Path. It is the most critical skill for shifting from living by reflex to living by consciousness, from clinging to taking refuge, finding unchanging safety. We've learned how to reclaim freedom in the space between stimulus and response. We've seen that the wisest choice is always immediately available. So, when we've dropped the identity, accepted impermanence, and created a free space, how should we act? Once we have this freedom and space, what do we fill it with? We've talked about clinging a lot, but here, we'll view it as a life strategy. Clinging is the attempt to use impermanent factors, like results, reputation, feelings, possessions, as a source of permanent security. Clinging is demanding and controlling. It is always accompanied by the fear of loss because the object being clung to is unstable by the law of impermanence. Examples of clinging. Clinging to results. I must win this award, otherwise I am worthless. Clinging to emotion. I am not allowed to be sad. I must always be happy, or I won't be accepted. Clinging to identity. I am the CEO. If I lose this position, I am nobody. The result, clinging is the karma of suffering, dukkha. It creates a relentless loop, trying to control the uncontrollable, which leads to disappointment, which then leads to trying to control even harder. In contrast to clinging, taking refuge is the act of building inner security by anchoring oneself to the unchanging principles of the universe and the mind. Taking refuge is about finding stability not from what life gives you, the result, but from how you meet what life offers, the process. Taking refuge is trusting and softening, taking refuge in the process. I will do my absolute best. No matter the result, I know I performed the new karma, part 4, with mindfulness, part 7. Taking refuge in wisdom. Even though I am sad, I trust that this feeling is impermanent, part 1, and that I am not it, non-self, part 5. The result, taking refuge creates peace, shanti. It is the wisest action because it is based on things that never change. Truth. In Buddhism, the act of taking refuge is called going for refuge to the triple gem, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. For the modern practitioner, these are not divine entities, but the 3 unchanging resources for our tired hearts. A. Refuge in the Buddha. Inner potential for awareness clinging. Praying to an external Buddha to solve your troubles, seeking external control. Refuge, trusting your own Buddha nature, taking refuge in the truth that you have the potential for awakening, the ability to create the space, part 7, and see the truth. Impermanence, non-self. Practical meaning. Refuge in the Buddha is self-trust in your own capacity to observe, trusting that no matter how chaotic the emotions are, the host, clear consciousness, is always there. Part 3. B. Refuge in the Dharma, the unchanging truths of the universe. Clinging to a specific religious belief or ritual for salvation. Clinging to the perception aggregate. Part 6. Refuge. Taking refuge in the truth. Trusting that suffering is always accompanied by clinging, the Four Noble Truths, and that everything is impermanent and non-self. Practical meaning. Refuge in the Dharma is living by the Eightfold Path. Right mindfulness, right intention, right effort, etc. This is your practical toolkit. When life collapses, you don't cling to the outcome, but take refuge in the next wise steps. What do I do to sow better new karma? Part 4. C. Refuge in the Sangha. Support and community of awareness. Clinging to a fixed person, a single teacher to solve all problems. Clinging to an external form. Aggregate. Part 6. Refuge. Taking refuge in the community of practice. These are the friends, family, or meditation groups who are walking this path with you. Refuge is realizing you are not alone in suffering, and that companionship can hold you steady when you wobble. Practical meaning. Refuge in the Sangha is the humility to seek help and learn. It is knowing that when you forget the pause, others can remind you. The farmer analogy. Clinging versus refuge. Imagine. You are a farmer planting a field. The clinging action. After planting, the farmer can't sleep. He clings to the result. The rain must come. The rain must be enough. There mustn't be any pests. I must have a huge harvest at all costs. When it rains too hard, he fears excessively. When the sun is too hot, he complains about impermanence. Why me? Part 4. The result. He loses sleep. Even if the harvest is bountiful, he suffers because the karma of clinging created ceaseless anxiety. The refuge action. The farmer takes refuge in the Dharma, truth. The weather is impermanent. I cannot control it. He takes refuge in the Sangha, community, asks other farmers for advice on better drought-resistant seeds. He takes refuge in the Buddha, awareness, focuses 100% of his energy on the process, new karma, plowing the soil well, selecting seeds carefully, tending to weeds. The result, he works with steady mind, samadhi. Even if the harvest fails due to natural disaster, he accepts that it is the fruit of old karma, nature, and immediately asks, what now? Planning for the next season. He doesn't lose his non-self value just because of the crop. In summary, taking refuge is not about escaping the world. Taking refuge is about investing your energy where you have control, intention, action, mindfulness, rather than wasting it on things outside your reach, results, others' emotions, impermanence. In order to shift from clinging to taking refuge, you need a simple action to anchor your mind in the present. Identify the clinging goal. Whenever you feel anxiety or despair, ask yourself, what outcome am I clinging to? Example, I am clinging to the idea that my boss must validate me. Set the self-reliant anchor, refuge in Dharma. Next, redirect 100% of your attention to the actionable process, the process you can control right now. Instead of clinging to the outcome, I will take refuge in my diligence, focus, for the next 10 minutes. Instead of clinging to praise, I will take refuge in my own loving kindness, metta, toward myself, accepting this feeling, reinforcing breath. Take 3 deep breaths, the pause, part 7, and use the breath to say, I release control of the outcome. I take refuge in the process. This is how you build inner strength. a type of power that can never be taken away by external circumstances. The ultimate survival code. Karma is choice. We have completed the survival map. We've learned how to face impermanence, how to dissect non-self, how to create the space, and where to truly take refuge. These teachings are not decoration for peaceful days. They are survival codes for the heart, designed for the moments when life collapses, and there is nothing left to hold on to but your own awakened mind. This final section brings all that wisdom together and turns it into your own power of action. After letting go, after creating the space, what do you fill it with? The answer lies in a deep understanding of karma. Karma is not fate, it's the law of intentional action. Throughout this journey, we have untied every knot of suffering. We accepted impermanence, that everything ends. We practiced non-self, that you are not defined by old mistakes. We created the space, the freedom between stimulus and response. However, perhaps no concept causes as much misunderstanding and suffering as karma. When something bad happens, the common reaction is, "This is my bad karma. I'm being punished for something I did in a past life." Most people view karma as a huge cosmic ledger where you must pay debts to the past. They see karma as fate, something unchangeable, heavy, and inherently punitive. And this very misunderstanding turns karma, the teaching of ultimate personal power, into a prison that confines our spirit. The Buddha defined karma very clearly. Monks, I declare that intention is karma. Having intended, one acts by body, speech, and mind. Karma is not fate. Karma is your intentional action in the present moment. To free yourself from the burden of old karma, you need to clearly distinguish two concepts. The ripened fruit, vipaka. The unchangeable burden karma's fruit, vipaka, is the ripened result of your past actions and intentions. It is the event that is happening right before your eyes. The sudden illness, the criticism you just heard, the financial loss you didn't anticipate. This is impermanence. The event has happened and cannot be reversed. When karma's fruit arrives, your power to change it is 0%. You cannot turn back time to change the decisions that led to this result. The only thing you can do is accept this event fully. New karma, the seed of the present. In contrast, new karma is your intentional action sown in the present moment. It is not the event, but how you respond to the event. The karma's fruit hands you a rotten tomato, but new karma is your choice. Will you get angry and slam the table, sowing seeds of aversion? Or will you calmly dispose of it with patience, sowing seeds of stillness? This is where your power is 100%. You have total control over your intention in this very second. When you lose your job, are betrayed, or suffer a failure, karma's fruit, you cannot change that reality, but you have full power to choose your new karma, your next intention and action right now. Karma is sown through 3 doors of action. Crucially, the mind, intention, is always the leader, the master of karma. Door 1, body karma, physical action. The actions your body performs, acts of generosity, helping, or physical harm. Door 2, speech karma, verbal action. How you communicate, lies. Malicious words, idle talk, or truthful, kind, unifying words. Speech has the power to create reality and sow seeds in others' minds. Door 3. Mind karma, intention and thought. This is the most critical door. This is the intention before you speak or act. If you help someone with the intention of getting praise, clinging, that is impure karma. If you help someone with the intention of wishing them less suffering, compassion, that is pure karma, even if the external action looks the same. Buddhist karma focuses on the quality of the seed, intention, not the size of the harvest, karma's fruit. How to sow new karma. How do we sow new karma instead of following old karma? A. Non-self and identity. Dismantling. When you say, I am a hot-tempered person, clinging to non-self, part 5, you are allowing the old mental formation, the habit of anger, to run automatically. When you understand non-self, you separate yourself from that label. You say, this is the old habit of anger arising. I am not it. This liberation from identity is the first step to reclaiming control. B. The pause and intentional choice. The space, part 7, is where mind karma is sown. The event happens. The mind automatically reacts. Old karma from mental formations arises. You create the pause, concentration. Immediately, you block the flow of old karma. You ask, what now? New karma. You use pure intention to choose the action. This is the moment you shift from being the victim of karma's fruit, complaining about the past, to the creator of new karma, acting in the present. Think of a potter working in a kiln. Karma's fruit, the fired brick. You encounter someone who once hurt you. That injury is the ripened karma's fruit, a brick that has been fired and is very hard. You cannot change the fact that it happened. Clinging karma, adding pain. You cling to that memory, spending the whole day complaining, resenting, and wishing the other person ill. You are using speech karma and mind karma to refire that brick of injury. The brick doesn't change, but you are creating new bricks of karma of complaint that pile onto your life. New karma, creating new bricks. You use the pause to observe. The injury is here. This is old karma's fruit. What now? You decide not to speak a harsh word, speech karma, and you use intention to forgive yourself, mind karma. You are using the clay of the present to fire new bricks of compassion and freedom. The power of intention and radical freedom. Your power lies here. You can't change the old bricks, but you can stop firing new bricks of suffering today. The correct understanding of karma is the realization of radical freedom. Karma frees you from old mistakes. Because karma is essentially intention in the present moment, the mistake you made 5 seconds ago doesn't have to define you. You can change your karma instantly with a different intention, non-self. Karma frees you from injustice. When you accept the karmic result that has arrived, impermanence, without complaint, why me? You no longer feel like a victim. You shift your focus from blame to creation. Karma frees you from clinging. If you sow karma with pure intention, kindness for kindness' sake, not for the outcome, you receive serenity regardless of what the karmic result of that action brings. Taking refuge, part 8. The difference between a person who suffers and a person who is happy is not about the karmic results they receive, but about how they sow new karma. Before you take any important action, whether it's something small like sending an email or something big like making a decision, apply the 3-step intention. Check to ensure you are sowing the best karma. Before the action, sowing the seed. Stop and ask, what is my core intention for this action? It must be right thought, non-harming, aiming for benefit. During the action, nurturing the seed, maintain mindfulness. Am I doing this with focus and kindness, or am I doing it in anger, procrastination? After the action, celebrating the seed. Instead of clinging to the result, praise, recognition. Praise your own intention and effort. I did this with a good intention. I am grateful for taking ownership of my action. By continuously checking and purifying your intention, you are using new karma to rewrite your life's script, moment by moment. The 6 golden keys, core tools for liberation. We've now covered the entire survival code given to us by the Buddha. This is a fantastic summary of the whole journey. These 6 points are the essence of the soul's survival code. I'm going to rewrite them as a warm essay, connecting the points like a story. After going through the deepest philosophies of Buddhism, we see that they all converge into 6 simple yet incredibly powerful tools. This isn't theory. These are the 6 golden keys that unlock your freedom from the mind's shackles. Accept impermanence and learn to drop the rope. The first and most basic lesson is impermanence, Anicca. Everything changes, and that's the truth. We suffer not because life changes, but because we try to cling to it. The liberating insight here is, you cannot control the flow of life. Your practical tool is to drop the rope. Let go of clinging to outcomes, identities, or how others should behave. When you accept change as the natural state, you find unshakable peace. Notice the suffering. Your emotions are not you. Suffering will always arrive. But you are not that suffering. We've learned to see suffering as a visitor. This liberating knowledge helps you differentiate. You are not the anger. You are the one observing the anger. The tool you use is mindful noticing. Use a simple word, anxiety, sadness, anger, to name the emotion. This act immediately creates a subtle distance. The ultimate meaning is, emotions are not you. They are fleeting clouds in the sky of the mind, with no power to frame or define who you are. The freedom of non-self and identity experimentation. We often think we're boxed in by our mistakes, failures, or social labels. Non-self, Anatta, teaches that no fixed self exists. This knowledge gives you the power to change and grow. The practical tool is identity experimentation. Consciously choose new karma. You don't have to be the flawed version of yesterday. The ultimate meaning is, you are not defined by old mistakes. You can reinvent yourself in every moment. Transforming karma, the power of present intention. Instead of viewing karma as destiny, we've learned to see it as karmic result, what has happened, and new karma, what is being created. The liberating knowledge is the question, now what? This is your most powerful tool. You can't change the karmic result that is arriving, but your power rests entirely in your present intention, the way you choose to react and sow new seeds of compassion and patience, creating the pause and mindful breathing. All freedom lies in one place, the pause between the event and your reaction. The liberating knowledge is, an automatic reaction is not your only choice. The simplest practical tool is mindful breathing. When the emotional storm hits, anchor yourself to the breath. The pause is created just long enough for concentration clarity to arise. The ultimate meaning is, freedom lies between the event and the reaction. With just one deep breath, you reclaim control. Finding refuge. Safety comes from within. After everything you've learned, you know you don't need to seek safety externally, in money, fame, or approval. The liberating knowledge is taking refuge. Safety comes from within. Your practical tool is the self-reliance anchor. Take refuge in the Dharma, this knowledge. The Buddha, your inner potential for awakening, and the Sangha, the conscious community. The ultimate meaning, you are fully equipped. True safety comes from self-confidence in your own capacity for awareness. These teachings are not meant as decoration for peaceful days. They are tools you can grab when everything around you is falling apart. They liberate you from worry, fear, and the burden of the false self. Now, you have the map and the tools. You have reclaimed the power to create your life. We've learned how to act wisely, but once we've tidied up the house of our minds, once we've let go of the burden of the self, what should we fill that empty space with? We will see that the most powerful, radical, and happiness-inducing action you can take is to open your heart with compassion, the supreme act of a person who has been liberated from all attachments. In a society that celebrates individual success, it's also easy to place all blame for failure and suffering squarely on ourselves. When a relationship ends, you conclude, "I wasn't good enough." When a project fails, you judge yourself, "I'm incompetent." When you get sick, you blame yourself, "I didn't take better care of myself." We get stuck on a single cause, "my fault." It's this self-blame that makes suffering feel so isolated and unfair. You feel like you're the only one responsible for every bad thing that happens, and that exhaustion wears you down. The Buddha spent his entire enlightenment seeing one deep and liberating truth. Nothing in this universe happens because of a single cause. Dependent origination, the liberating web of existence. The doctrine of dependent origination, paticcasamuppada, or conditioned co-arising, is the foundation of the entire Buddhist teaching. It explains how everything arises and ceases. Dependent origination teaches that every object, phenomenon, emotion, or event is the result of countless causes and conditions, dependencies coming together, not the result of a single independent cause. Imagine a giant net weaving the entire universe. If you touch one thread, one event, the entire net vibrates. Your experience of suffering isn't a brick dropped from a clear sky, a single mistake you made. It is the interplay of thousands of threads. Thread 1, the mistake you made, your intentional action, karma. Thread 2, your family, background. Thread 3, the global economy. Thread 4, the mood of the person who made a decision affecting you. Thread 5, your lack of sleep that day. Thread 6, impermanence, the constantly changing nature of all things. The liberation is here. When you see dependent origination, you realize suffering is never the fault of a single person. Suffering is the product of a system. Dependent origination strongly reinforces the teaching of non-self. Part 5. If everything is created by countless conditions, then no fixed self can control or be solely responsible for everything. The I you're trying to blame is also just a temporary collection of factors. The 5 aggregates, part 6, constantly being influenced by external conditions. For example, you yell at your child out of stress, self-blame, my fault, I am a terrible parent. Blaming a single cause, boxing in your identity. Dependent origination, the net. This act of yelling arose because my child was fussy. 1. I hadn't slept enough. 2. I have unresolved financial pressure. 3. And I was dominated by the feeling aggregate, discomfort. 4. The yelling is the result of these conditions intersecting, not the fault of an inherently bad person. When you see this net, the weight of self-blame is cut in half. You shift from self-condemnation to analyzing the conditions. Think of a hurricane hitting land. The clinging and self-blaming person looks at a single leaf being swept away and asks, "What is the leaf's fault for having to suffer the storm?" A senseless question. The wisdom of dependent origination looks at the formation of the storm. Warm ocean temperature, condition 1. Low atmospheric pressure, condition 2. The Earth's rotation, condition 3. Cold wind blowing through at the exact right moment, condition 4. The hurricane is not the fault of any one factor. It is the inevitable result when countless dependencies converge. Similarly, your suffering, job loss, loneliness, health issues is a perfect storm created by the convergence of countless impermanent conditions. The lesson here, you don't need to blame yourself for the storm's appearance. Instead, focus on what you can do right now with the conditions you can influence. New karma. The condition listing exercise. Releasing self-blame. Next time you feel powerful self-blame overwhelming you, do this condition listing exercise for relief. Acknowledge the emotion. I feel guilty, self-blaming about the event that happened. Ask the net-breaking question. Instead of asking, "What is my fault?" ask, "What conditions contributed to the creation of this event?" By listing the conditions, you've moved from emotional judgment to intellectual analysis. You've replaced the handcuffs of my fault with the understanding of dependent origination. Dependent origination offers two great gifts: compassion and humility. Compassion. When you see your suffering as the result of countless conditions, it becomes easier to forgive yourself and others. You realize that the person who hurt you is also being driven by their own dependent origination. Humility. Dependent origination reminds us that we are not the center of the universe, not the single controller of all outcomes. It moves you from demanding perfection, clinging to the results, to mastering your intentional actions within a complex world. You can't control all the dependencies, but you can control your new karma, the intention you plant right now. We've completed the survival map. Impermanence shatters the illusion of control. Non-self liberates identity. Dependent origination dissolves self-blame. When you've let go of all burdens, when you clearly see that every event is connected, what are you left with? You are left with freedom and a liberated heart. Now you will fill that void with the supreme action, loving kindness, metta. Loving kindness isn't a sappy emotion. It is the most powerful action of a person who has seen the truth. When you clearly see the web of dependent origination weaving all suffering, you realize that only love and kindness can weave a better net. You've completed the map. Now it's time to walk the path. Start sowing karma of compassion today. Live every moment with freedom, courage, and kindness. For that is the true peace you have been seeking. Karma and forgiveness, the ultimate self-defense. Strategy. There's a famous saying, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Through the Buddhist lens, this is not just a metaphor. It's an absolute truth about karma. When someone hurts you, the event, they have sown a karma that caused suffering, karmic result. You can't control that. But when you embrace bitter clinging, holding on to resentment, you are sowing new karma into your own consciousness. Intention. Wishing for others to suffer, wishing the past were different, clinging to the feeling and perception aggregates. Part 6. Action. Spending hours reliving the pain, recounting the injustice and keeping the wound fresh. Who are you when you hold on to resentment? You are a vessel for someone else's suffering. You are creating a personal cycle of resentment within yourself. The most crucial point, the seed of resentment does not hurt the other person, but it is polluting the soil of your own mind. Not forgiving is not punishing the other person. It is punishing yourself by constantly refiring the brick of suffering karma. Part 9. Forgiveness is not an emotion. Forgiveness is the wisest karmic self-defense strategy. From a Buddhist perspective, forgiveness, karma, is the conscious act of ending the cycle of resentment created by oneself. It is not weakness or forgetfulness. It is accepting the karmic result, impermanence. You accept that. The hurt has happened. That event is impermanent. I cannot change the past. This stops you from clinging to the false hope that if I hold on to this anger, I'll have the power to change what happened. Impossible. Impermanence. Part 1. Forgiveness. The ultimate self-defense strategy. Continued. Applying dependent origination, non-self. You view the person who hurt you with the wisdom of dependent origination. Part 10. This person didn't act because they are an independent monster, but because they too were driven by their own dependencies. Fear, ignorance, old suffering, and destructive psychological habits. You clearly see, suffering is never the fault of a single person. This helps you separate the person from their action. You forgive the person who was driven by dharma, the ignorant mind, not the wrong action itself. Sowing new karma, intention. This is the most crucial part. Forgiveness is an act of intention. Intention. I choose to free my mind from the bondage of the past. I plant the seed of peace in my own consciousness. When you forgive, you are sowing new karma by actively choosing an intention of compassion instead of an intention of resentment. You are using the pause, part 7, to decide, hatred will not write the next chapter of my life. Imagine you're carrying an invisible alarm clock in your head, labeled resentment. The person who hurt you, karmic result, activated this clock. Every day, every few hours, the clock rings, triggering the unpleasant feeling aggregate and judging perception aggregate. Each time it rings, you hit the snooze button by reliving the painful story. Who is enduring this noise? Only you. The other person may have forgotten the event long ago or is busy dealing with their own karmic results. Forgiveness is the conscious act of walking up to that clock and hitting the shut off completely button. It doesn't mean you have to call the other person and say, I forgive you. It means you say to yourself, I don't want to live with this ringing anymore. I release myself from the obligation to suffer because of someone else's actions. The path to self-forgiveness, if forgiving others is difficult, forgiving yourself is often even harder. This is where non-self and new karma are applied radically. The I or event, you made a big mistake in the past, karmic result. The cycle of self-blame, you cling to that mistake. constantly using mental karma to judge yourself. I am a failure. I am undeserving. You are constantly triggering your self-hatred alarm clock. Self-forgiveness is the act of taking refuge in the truth of non-self. Part 5. Shum. Detach. Realize the me who made that mistake is impermanent and non-self. That person is past. The person remaining here is the one learning the lesson. I am not that statue of a mistake. So new karma. Instead of punishing yourself, old karma, you choose an intention of compassion toward yourself, new karma. You ask, what does the person I care about most need me to say right now? Usually, it's okay. You learned. Now get up and act. Act with freedom. Stop reliving the mistake and focus all your energy on meaningful new karma. Doing good work. Being kind and appreciating the present. Part 9. Forgiving yourself is not forgetting the mistake. It's using that mistake as fuel for present compassion and growth. When a painful memory of old hurt or a mistake arises, apply this flow technique. Acknowledge. Realize an unpleasant feeling aggregate and a story of resentment, self-blame, perception aggregate are arising. The pause, part 7. Name the seed. Say silently, this is the new karma of resentment. I choose not to plant this seed anymore. Press. Replace the intention. Immediately replace the intention of resentment with an intention of loving kindness, metta. Take a deep breath and say, may that person or myself be peaceful. May I be free from this burden. Move. Instead of sitting still and dwelling, get up and act consciously. Wash the dishes, take a walk, do a small act of charity. This action breaks the mental loop and helps you sow positive body karma and speech karma. Forgiveness is the most radical liberation you can grant yourself. We've completed the map, from seeing the impermanence of the world to seizing the power of creating new karma for yourself. Freedom is not about controlling the world clinging, but about controlling your intention, taking refuge. When you let go of the burden of the self and all past resentments, what are you left with? You are left with clarity, freedom, and an open heart. Now take all this wisdom and turn it into the most powerful action you can, the action of loving kindness, metta. Live every day with unconditional kindness, for that is the ultimate new karma. The Noble Eightfold Path, your 8-step survival map. We've arrived at the most crucial section, where all the wisdom you've learned merges into a single map. You've seen that impermanence is the truth, non-self is liberation, dependent origination dissolves self-blame, and new karma is your power. But how do you move from deep philosophy to daily action? The Buddha was very practical. He didn't just give a diagnosis of suffering, the Four Noble Truths. He also laid out a detailed, step-by-step itinerary to escape it. That itinerary is the Noble Eightfold Path, Arya Athan Gika Magga. Consider this your 8-step survival map for your heart. The Noble Eightfold Path is the heart of Buddhism. It's not a list of commandments, but a method of comprehensive development, a system designed to change how you perceive, act, and focus your mind. This map is divided into 3 main groups, forming a mutually supportive process of training. The wisdom group, prajna, insight, the foundation for right view. This group focuses on how you perceive the world and set your life's intentions. This is your compass on the journey. Right view, Samma, Ditti, seeing the truth. Clearly right view is the foundation of everything. It's the recognition of the Four Noble Truths, the existence of suffering, the cause of suffering, clinging, craving, the possibility of ending suffering, nirvana, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering, the Eightfold Path. Connection to past lessons. Right view is precisely the understanding and acceptance of impermanence and non-self, parts 1 and 5. It's the understanding that suffering doesn't come from external events, but from your own clinging reaction. Practical application. Whenever you feel uneasy, right view reminds you, suffering is here. The cause is my resistance to reality. I can let go of this resistance. 2. Right intention, Samma Sandot Kappa, pure purpose. Right intention is about cultivating bright, wise intentions. Once you see correctly, right view, you naturally want to act correctly. Right intention focuses on 3 types of liberating intention. Intention of renunciation, letting go of attachment, abandoning craving, and demanding impermanence. Intention of goodwill, wishing well for yourself and others, instead of resentment or envy. Intention of non-harming, a firm resolve not to cause harm to any living being, including yourself. Connection to past lessons. This is the act of sowing new karma through intention, part 9. Before you speak or act, you check your core intention. Practical application. Before a tense conversation, you pause for 3 seconds. The pause, part 7, and set the intention. I am speaking this for a beneficial purpose, not to punish or win. Su. The ethical conduct group, Sila, morality, liberating action I. The ethical conduct group, Sila, morality, liberating action. This group is about transforming intention into practical action, creating the courtesy of the soul, the way you interact with the world so you don't create further suffering. Right speech, Samma Vaka. Truthful communication speech is the most powerful gateway for karma. Right speech has 4 golden principles. No lying. Speak the truth. Be honest. No divisive speech. Don't cause factionalism or gossip behind people's backs. Speak words that promote harmony. No harsh speech. Don't insult or swear. Speak gently and kindly. No idle chatter. Don't ramble. Don't engage in pointless gossip. Speak words that are valuable and timely. Practical application. Remember speech karma, part 9. Before sending an angry text, ask yourself, is this helpful? Is it true? And will it create harmony? If not, don't say it. Right action, Samakamanta. Ethical behavior. These are the bodily actions you should practice and avoid. No killing. Respect for life. No stealing. Respect for others' property. Don't take what isn't given. No sexual misconduct, wrong sensual pleasure. Practice responsible sexual behavior that doesn't harm yourself or others. Practical application. Right action is the basis for being able to sleep soundly every night, because you know you have acted non-harmfully. Right livelihood, Samma Ajuva. Ethical earning. Right livelihood is about earning a living ethically, without harming living beings. Avoid harmful occupations, dealing in weapons, poisons, intoxicants, butchery, slaughter, or any profession that profits from the suffering or ignorance of others. Core principle. Your livelihood shouldn't just nourish your body, it must also nourish the peace and goodness in your soul. Practical application. Right livelihood reminds you, your value isn't in how much money you make, but in the quality of the karma you sow through that work. 3. The concentration group, samadhi, focus, the soul's power. This group is the training of the mind. This is the engine that allows you to sustain morality and develop insight. Right effort, sama vayama. Focused exertion, effort isn't about frantic activity. It's the right kind of effort in mind management. Prevent unwholesome states from arising. Abandon unwholesome states that have arisen. Greed, hatred, delusion. Nurture wholesome states that have arisen. Compassion, joy, equanimity, mindfulness. Develop wholesome states that haven't arisen yet. Connection to past lessons. This is the continuous effort to create the pause, part 7, and sow new karma, part 9, by stopping the old volitional formation aggregate, negative habits, from taking over. Practical application. If you notice yourself falling into a spiral of complaint, wrong effort. Right effort is the conscious exertion to immediately shift your attention to a wholesome action, mindfulness. T. Right mindfulness, Maranasati. Present awareness. Right mindfulness is the ability to maintain non-judgmental awareness of the present experience. It is your anchor to reality. Focus on 4 areas: body, breath, posture, feelings, feeling aggregate, mind, mental states, and phenomena, thoughts, concepts. Connection to past lessons. Mindfulness is the heart of freedom. It allows you to see the impermanence of emotions, the visitor, part 3, and create the pause, part 7, to choose your action. Practical application. Focus on your breath. Notice tension without trying to change it. Just observe. Right concentration, samadhi. Steady focus. Right concentration is the development of the ability to focus deeply and stably, samadhi. It is the energy that allows the other steps to take effect. Purpose. To make the mind calm and clear enough to see the impermanent, non-self nature of all things. Insight. Connection to past lessons. Concentration is the stability that allows the pause, part 7, to open up. If your mind is constantly scattered, the pause will never appear. Practical application. Daily meditation. Even 5 minutes of focusing on the breath is building right concentration. The Eightfold Path in crisis. Imagine you're facing a major failure, loss, divorce, bankruptcy. A perfect storm, dependent origination, part 10. 1. Right view. You see clearly, this is suffering, but it is impermanent. Loss is the nature of life, not my fault, non-self. Right intention. You set the intention. I will not sink into hatred or self-pity. My intention is healing and learning. Right speech. When speaking to loved ones, you avoid harsh words or excessive self-blame. Right action and livelihood. You still maintain self-care habits and look for new work honestly and ethically. Right effort. When your mind falls into despair, wrong effort, you consciously make the effort to shift attention to a meaningful activity, walking, reading. Right mindfulness. You notice the feelings of sadness and fear, feeling aggregate, arising without clinging to them. Drop the rope, part 2, 7, right. Concentration. Thanks to meditation, you have enough stillness to create the pause and make wise decisions instead of reacting impulsively. The Eightfold Path isn't a straight line, it's an upward spiral. Each part supports and reinforces the others. To simplify the 8 steps, focus on the 3 points of focus, tisika, every day. Check insight, see right. Before I do this, is my intention kind? Right view and right intention. Check ethical conduct, act right. In the last 24 hours, did I say or do anything harmful? Right speech, action, livelihood. Check concentration, mind right. For the next 10 minutes, can I focus completely on one thing? Right effort, mindfulness, concentration. By continually practicing the Eightfold Path, you don't just survive the storms, you thrive from them. The map is complete. You have been equipped with the most detailed survival code known to human wisdom. From the liberation of impermanence and non-self, to the safety of taking refuge, and finally, the step-by-step itinerary of the Eightfold Path. Now you see that power is not in controlling life, but in meeting it fully, courageously, and kindly. It's time to turn this knowledge into your own personal experience. Take this map and start your own journey of liberation. The compassion vortex. Personal suffering as sacred ground. The magical truth of pain. We often view suffering, dukkha, as a failure, proof that we did something wrong. Through the lens of enlightenment, suffering is not a punishment. Personal suffering is sacred ground from which true compassion, karuna, is born. Think about it. Where in your life did you learn patience? Where did you learn humility? The answer, for most of us, is right in the middle of our most desperate crises. If you've never experienced the agony of betrayal, you can't truly grasp the utter loneliness of others. If you've never struggled with anxiety, you can't truly feel the weight of someone facing uncertainty. The Buddha taught that our suffering isn't pointless. It has a higher purpose, to become a bridge of connection between us and all other beings. Genuine compassion can only be born from a deep understanding of non-self, part 5. When you still cling to a small, selfish self, compassion becomes pity. Oh, I feel so sorry for them. I'm luckier, creating separation and distance. Or it becomes over-responsibility. I must try to save them, otherwise I'll feel guilty. Clinging to the role of the hero. When you are liberated from the self and see that you are just a temporary collection of aggregates, part 6, you see, there is no I, fixed self, suffering. There are no they, separate others, suffering. There is only suffering happening, dependent origination, part 10. Compassion becomes identification. Their suffering is also my suffering. We are all beings swept away by the current of impermanence. Only when I understand my own pain can I truly understand the pain of others. This is the compassion loop. Personal insight becomes universal connection. See my suffering. See universal suffering. Act with compassion, reduce my suffering. Imagine you are a lighthouse keeper on a stormy night. The event, your light mechanism breaks down severely, personal suffering, karmic result. You struggle all night to fix it. Your hands are freezing. Your mind is desperate. You deeply feel the impermanence of your tools. The next morning, you look out at the sea. You see a ship violently tossing in the wake of the storm. The unenlightened person would say, "Poor them. I hope they make it to shore safely." Just useless words, perception aggregate. The enlightened person, dependent origination. You don't just see them, you feel them. You vividly recall the cold on your hands, the fear when the light almost went out. Your pain has become a lens to see their pain. The compassionate action. This understanding is no longer an emotion. It becomes intention and action, new karma. You will do everything you can, not because you expect thanks, clinging, but because you deeply know the karmic result of despair. You have transformed your most painful personal experience into a force for serving others. This is the greatness of compassion. Many people think nibbana, nirvana, is a distant place, a mystical spiritual state. But nibbana is also the state of no clinging, part 8, a mind completely at peace. When you practice compassion, you are achieving peace immediately. Why? Shift of focus. When you shift your attention from my suffering to their suffering, you are breaking the clinging loop of the self. Pure action. Compassionate action is the purest form of new karma, not for personal gain, no clinging to the result. This pure karma leaves no trace of worry or regret in the mind, and thus it creates unwavering peace. Compassion is not a sacrifice. It is the smartest investment in your own peace and happiness. You don't need to seek out a stranger to practice compassion. Start right where you feel the most suffering. Acknowledge the pain point. Stop and recognize where you felt the most hurt this week. Self-blame, failure, anxiety. Embrace that emotion. Feeling aggregate. Apply forgiveness. Say to yourself, body aggregate, I forgive myself for this imperfection. This is impermanent. I have learned the lesson. Expand the loop. Once you have calmed down, imagine someone else going through this exact same feeling. Anxiety, self-blame, failure. It could be a friend, a co-worker, or a stranger. Send intention. Take a deep breath and send this intention of goodwill to them. May this person also be free from that burden. May they be at peace. In this way, you have used your own pain as a launch pad for compassion. You have completed the entire survival map built on the foundation of Buddhist wisdom. Foundation: accepting impermanence and liberating non-self. Tools: using mindfulness to create the moment of the pause for freedom. Strategy: sowing new karma with intention and choosing taking refuge over clinging. Ultimate goal: transforming personal suffering into universal compassion, metta. You have seen that liberation is not about escaping the world, but about interacting with the world with a heart that is no longer bound. You don't need to be a monk to master your life. You only need to be a human being willing to see the truth, accept change, and act with kindness. Live every moment with courage and compassion. Your journey begins now. The person who hurts you is your compassion. Teacher, we have learned to accept impermanence and non-self. Use the pause to sow new karma with intention and achieve peace by forgiving ourselves and others. Now we will move to the next lesson, the most difficult, but also the one that brings the greatest liberation, practicing compassion towards those who cause us pain. If you can love the lovable, that's instinct. But if you can open your heart to the unlovable, to the people who consistently trigger your pain, that is enlightenment. The illusion of conditional compassion most of us practice, loving kindness, metta, conditionally, condition. I will be kind to you as long as you don't hurt me. Result: when they hurt you, your compassion immediately collapses and turns into judgment or resentment. This isn't your fault. When suffering happens, our volitional formation aggregate, old psychological habits, automatically puts up a defensive wall. We want to push the source of the pain away to protect the self, even if that self is non-self. But in Buddhism, limited compassion is not whole compassion. It's like armor with a crack. The Buddha and the Bodhisattvas taught that the person who hurts you the most is not an enemy, but your greatest compassion teacher. They are the only ones in your life capable of showing the limit. They clearly show you the limit of the compassion you currently possess. Forcing growth, they force you to expand your heart beyond the boundary of liking and disliking. This is the hardest meditation school of life, and the difficult people are the unenrolled teachers. In the Mahayana tradition, the Bodhisattva path is the vow to liberate all beings, regardless of who they are or what they have done. To practice the Bodhisattva path with the unlovable, we must shift to a new perspective, the perspective of wisdom, prajna. Applying dependent origination, seeing the stage of suffering. When you look at an enemy, the natural reaction is to see their actions, criticism, betrayal, selfishness. The practice of dependent origination, part 10, is to look past the action to see the causes. Dharma. Cause 1. This person is being driven by their own karmic result. Volitional formation aggregate. They have suffered similar hurts in the past. Cause 2. They are acting out of delusion, avidya. They can't see impermanence and non-self, so they cling to their self, causing suffering for others and for themselves. Conclusion. The person who is hurting you is also hurting inside. Their anger is a sign of fear. Their criticism is a hidden cry for help. When you see this stage of suffering, you are no longer angry at the actor. You feel the teacher of patience, kshanti, forbearance. Compassion has no ground to stand on without patience, kshanti. It's said that you could be the richest person in the world, but if you have no one to help, you can't practice generosity. Similarly, if no one insults or annoys you, you can't practice patience. The difficult person is giving you a gift that money can't buy. The opportunity to train patience to its limit. Example: a co-worker constantly takes credit for your work. Old reaction: they're a bad person, I must retaliate. Resentment karma, part 11, Bodhisattva. Practice: this person is teaching me a lesson about non-self, part 5. They are helping me let go of clinging to personal fame and achievement, form and feeling aggregates. I thank this teacher for showing me detachment. When you transform annoyance into a lesson, you not only free them from your resentment, but more importantly, you free yourself from the bondage of the situation. Genuine compassion must be supported by equanimity, upekkha. Equanimity is the peak of the Four Immeasurables. The Four Immeasurables, 4 antidotes for the soul. The Four Immeasurables, Brahmaviharas, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity are the 4 highest qualities a liberated heart can cultivate. They are not fleeting emotions, but 4 eternal states of mind. intentionally trained to protect you from greed, hatred, and delusion. Let's look at each state, from the foundation to the peak of freedom. Metta, loving kindness. The warm light of goodwill. Definition. Loving kindness is the sincere, unconditional wish that all beings be happy, safe, and live in peace. It is a warm light that spreads boundlessly. Purpose. To develop unconditional goodwill. Metta is the foundation, the start of all kindness practice. When you practice metta, you directly counteract hatred and judgment. You sow the seeds of contentment and acceptance right in your mind. Karuna, compassion. Ending indifference. Definition. Compassion is the deep wish that all beings be free from suffering. Karuna is the natural reaction of metta when it encounters pain. It is not pity, but compassion based on the deep understanding that everyone desires happiness just like you do. Purpose. To end indifference. As you expand Karuna, you break down the barrier of the separate self and connect with the universal pain of humanity. Compassion motivates you to act with right action to alleviate suffering when possible, without taking that pain on as your own. Mudita, sympathetic joy. The antidote to envy. Definition. Sympathetic joy is sincerely rejoicing in the happiness, success, and joy of others. This is often the hardest state to sustain because it directly counteracts envy and the feeling of scarcity. Purpose. To end jealousy. When you practice mudita, you realize that happiness is not a limited resource. Someone else's success doesn't take away yours. It enriches the entire web of dependent origination. Sympathetic joy is the fastest way for you to connect with joy, simply by looking at the happiness of others. Upekkha, equanimity. The anchor of balance. Definition. Equanimity is the state of mind that is not swayed by liking or disliking, gain or loss. Equanimity is the peak and the master of the three states above, ensuring your love is immeasurable, unconditional. Purpose. To let go of controlling the result. Equanimity allows you to love and help with metta, karuna, and mudita, but without clinging to the outcome. They must change for me. It is the radical acceptance of impermanence. You do what needs to be done. So pure new karma. And you let the karmic result follow the natural law. The necessity of equanimity. When you practice karuna, compassion, with a difficult person, you can easily become exhausted or cling to the result. I have to help them change. This is suffering karma. Part 8. Equanimity teaches you, I will plant the intention of compassion, new karma, but I let go of control over whether that person changes or not, impermanence. I keep my mind in a balanced state, not pulled by anger or excessive interference. Equanimity is the ultimate freedom. It allows you to love your enemy without having to endure their behavior. You can set boundaries, wise action, while keeping your heart open, intention of compassion. Here is a practical example of the difference between clinging compassion and equanimous compassion. Clinging compassion without equanimity. A loving mother clings to the result. She does everything for her child, pays debts, covers mistakes, but is constantly anxious, desperate, and suffering because the child doesn't change. She is destroying herself in the process of trying to save her child. Equanimous compassion with equanimity. The mother still loves her child boundlessly. She sows compassionate karma by helping the child find professional support, but she also lets go of control over the child's choices. She says, "I love you, but I cannot save you. I hold boundaries so you can learn your own lessons. I maintain my peace, equanimity, so I can still be a lighthouse for you when you're ready to come back." Equanimity is peace in the middle of the storm. It is the ability to maintain connection but not be submerged by chaos. Next time you face an extremely difficult person, practice this triple set: identify, acknowledge. When they say or do something upsetting, immediately create the pause. Part 7. Acknowledge. This feeling of discomfort is arising, feeling aggregate. I am not it. Detach, dependent origination. Remind yourself. This action is the result of countless dependencies. This person's suffering, delusion. The action is not personal, non-self. I will not take it on. Thank, equanimity. Internally, send a silent thank you. Thank you to this teacher for showing me where my compassion is still limited. Because of them, I am forced to practice equanimity. In this way, you have instantly transformed a hurtful event into an opportunity for spiritual growth. You have completed the entire journey, from the uncertainty of impermanence to the power of complete equanimity. You have realized that you are not bound by the past. You are not defined by identity. You have the full power to sow new karma with intention in every moment. This survival code has been given to you not to escape the world, but to become a lighthouse of peace in the storm. Viet carry this freedom, this courage, and this kindness with you. Live each moment knowing that only when you free yourself from attachment and resentment can you truly serve the world. Take action. The greatest journey is to live. You've already walked most of the path of liberation. You've learned to let go, to forgive, and to open your heart with compassion, metta, and equanimity, upekkha. But there's one more power, a mysterious strength without which all wisdom collapses in the face of life's storms. That power is patience, in Sanskrit, ksanti. Most people think patience means putting up with things, biting your tongue, or enduring in silence. But through the Buddhist lens, patience is not passive endurance. It's an act of courage, a deliberate psychological strategy. We've talked about the pause, that sacred space between stimulus and response. But what actually happens inside that pause? When something painful happens, a criticism, a loss, it's not just an event, it's a direct trigger to your feeling aggregate, vedana, that discomfort, and to your mental formations, sankhara, your old psychological habits. Automatic reaction, lack of patience. You feel pain, you snap. The mind demands action, retaliate, justify, blame, escape. This snap is how new suffering is born. It breaks the pause, creates new karma, and drags you back into old patterns. True patience doesn't mean suppression. It's the ability to endure pain, verbal or emotional, without reacting from habit. In the Eightfold Path, right concentration, samadhi, means holding your mind steady and focused. Patience is that same concentration, applied to suffering. When you meditate, you train your mind to stay with one object, like your breath, even when distractions arise, noise, itching, discomfort. Patience is simply bringing that same skill into life. In meditation, object, the breath distraction, a barking dog. Patience, staying with the breath without reacting. In life, object, your compassionate intention or right. Livelihood, distraction, someone's harsh words. Patience, staying centered in compassion without striking back or defending yourself. Patience is the key to maintaining conscious choice in moments of pain. In the Mahayana tradition, patience is one of the 6 or 10 perfections, paramitas, the qualities that carry us across the ocean of suffering. It manifests in 3 levels: enduring injury, the hardest level; bearing insult, criticism, or harm from others; wisdom applied, dependent origination, pratyasamutpada. You see the aggressor as someone acting under their own suffering and ignorance. Their actions are impermanent. You no longer take on their burden. Enduring personal suffering, facing illness, physical pain, loss, or unwanted change. Wisdom applied, non-self, anatta. You remind yourself, this pain is not me. It's just a rising sensation. You observe it mindfully without resisting. Acceptance breaks the cycle. Pain, resistance, amplified pain. Enduring the truth, persevering through the challenges of learning, meditating, and self-honesty. Wisdom applied, right effort, samavayama. You understand that liberation demands steady, patient endurance. Imagine your anger as a flood threatening to overflow. Passive reaction, suppressing. You build a wall to hold it in, but eventually the wall cracks. Suppression hides, it doesn't heal. Active patience, mindful endurance. You let the flood become sand flowing through an hourglass. Here's how. Acceptance. Acknowledge the sand as your anger is flowing. Pause. Flip the hourglass. Take a mindful breath before reacting. Observation. Watch each grain, each sensation, and pass by without touching it. Endurance. Stay until the sand runs out. Within 3 to 5 minutes, the storm weakens on its own. Impermanence in action. Patience allows emotions to die naturally from lack of reaction. Instead of feeding them with your energy, next time discomfort rises, anxiety, anger, offense, try this 2-breath practice. The pause. Stop. Recognize. This is unpleasant sensation, Vedana arising. I won't press the button. First breath, patience. Inhale deeply. Exhale and silently say, I endure this feeling. Second breath, concentration. Inhale again. Exhale and say, I remain centered here. Repeat 3 cycles. You're combining patience with concentration, creating a shield that lets emotional storms pass without carrying you away. Now, you have all the pieces. This is no longer philosophy to read. It's a life to be lived. Carry this freedom, patience, and love with you. Go out and live each day with the awakened, knowing that you don't have to wait for the world to change. You can change how you meet it today. You've cleaned your inner house, released the impermanent and the unreal, planted new karma with right intention, and found stability through patience and equanimity. But what fills a liberated heart once it's been emptied of attachment? The answer is light. The light of the Four Immeasurables, Brahmaviharas. Boundless qualities that protect the soul from bitterness, greed, envy, and chaos. They are not just moral virtues, they are antibodies for the soul, the highest purpose of Buddhist practice and the summit of liberation itself. The Four Immeasurables are called immeasurable because they transcend space and time. They make no distinction between friend and foe. They are the infinite states of a truly free mind. Viet loving kindness, metta, is true love. The pure and simple wish for all beings to be happy, safe, and live in peace. Loving kindness is the foundation. It's not a romantic emotion, but an active intention and attitude. Antidote to hatred. Loving kindness is the direct medicine for anger, judgment, and hostility. It's the radical acceptance that others also wish to be happy, just like you. Expanding non-self. When you practice loving kindness, you temporarily dissolve the barrier of the ego. You no longer think, only I deserve happiness, but instead, all beings deserve happiness. Imagine holding a small oil lamp as you walk through a dark alley. Your purpose is to light the path for others, but as you do, that same light also illuminates your own way. Loving kindness is that lamp. When you send wishes of happiness to others, you plant pure karma, and that very act warms and brightens your own mind. It's giving without loss, benefiting others and yourself in the same breath. Compassion, karuna, is the heartfelt wish for all beings to be free from suffering. Compassion arises naturally when loving kindness meets pain, antidote to cruelty or indifference. Compassion is the cure for apathy and harshness. Built upon the law of interdependence, it sees that the suffering of others is not separate from your own. Transforming pain into connection. As we've learned, true compassion only blossoms when you understand your own pain. Your suffering becomes sacred soil that allows you to genuinely feel another's suffering. Not as pity, but as empathy. A rescue worker dives into a raging river not because he seeks suffering, but because he understands the terror of drowning. Compassion doesn't mean taking on others' pain. It means opening your heart to help relieve it. You create a pause between pain and reaction, and from that space, you choose compassionate action instead of self-protection. Sympathetic joy, mudita, is the sincere joy you feel for others' happiness, success, and well-being. It's often the hardest of the four immeasurables to practice because it challenges one of our deepest enemies, envy. Antidote to envy. Envy grows from the illusion of a separate self, believing that another's success means your failure. Breaking the illusion of limitation. Joy destroys that illusion. It's grounded in the truth of interconnection, that one person's happiness strengthens the entire web of life. When a friend gets their dream job or finds love, you can respond in two ways. Old habit, envy. Why not me? They don't deserve it. New habit, sympathetic joy. That's wonderful. Their happiness adds to the light in this world, and that light reaches me too. Sympathetic joy is the quickest path to happiness because you can feel it instantly without waiting for your own success to arrive. Equanimity, upekkha, is the calm balance of the mind, the ability to remain steady amidst life's 8 winds, gain and loss, praise and blame, fame and disgrace, pleasure and pain. Equanimity is the master of the Four Immeasurables. It ensures your love, compassion, and joy are truly unconditional. Antidote to attachment and aversion. Equanimity is the highest expression of impermanence. It sees clearly that everything changes and cannot be controlled. It allows you to love without clinging and to help without expecting results. Maintaining healthy boundaries. Equanimity helps you love wisely. You can love an addict with kindness and feel compassion for their suffering, yet still respect their path and not interfere with their karma. Imagine being the gatekeeper of a bustling city. Practice of equanimity. You see people coming and going, the successful and the struggling, the joyful and the broken, and you greet them all with respect and neutrality. The result, you remain grounded and steady, able to do your work without being swept away by temporary emotions. Equanimity is ultimate freedom, the ability to love all without being bound to anyone or anything. Here's an ancient practice to transform the four immeasurables into antibodies for your soul. For yourself, loving kindness. Take a deep breath and send love to yourself. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. You cannot truly love others if you reject yourself. For loved ones, compassion. Send compassion to those you care about who are suffering. May they be free from pain. For neutral people, sympathetic joy. Send joy to people you know but feel neutral about, like the delivery driver or cashier. May they continue to experience happiness. For difficult people, equanimity. Send equanimity to those who have hurt you. I send them loving kindness and compassion, but I release any need to control their karma. May I stay balanced in their presence. Now your heart has expanded beyond measure. You've been given the Eightfold Path, the survival map, and the Four Immeasurables, the antibodies of the soul. Freedom isn't about escaping the world. It's about meeting the world with a liberated heart. You've learned impermanence is acceptance, non-self is liberation, patience is strength. The Four Immeasurables are both purpose and practice. Now take this wisdom with you. Live each moment with courage and kindness, for you are the creator of new karma, and you hold the power to turn suffering into light. You've learned that freedom lies in the pause. You've learned to endure pain without reaction. But how do you extend that pause when the storm truly hits? When the mind is a whirlwind of fear, anger, and confusion? The answer lies in naming what's happening within your mind. The practice of labeling emotions, winning the inner battle in silence. Labeling is the silent weapon of mindfulness. The practice of labeling, Qin. Labeling is the simple, conscious act of using a single, concise word to name whatever is arising in your current experience. It is not analysis. It is not storytelling. It is simply the act of naming pain, anxiety, anger, seeing, hearing, breathing in. The purpose of labeling is not to understand your feelings, but to create a small, subtle gap between the observer and the event taking place. The moment you name an emotion, you cease being its victim and become its observer. To understand why labeling is such a powerful survival tool, we need to recall the skandhas, aggregates, part 6. When you experience a crisis, e.g., a breakup, an automatic cycle of suffering occurs. Vedana, feeling aggregate. Your heart clenches. An intense, painful sensation arises. Pain. Samjna, perception, storytelling aggregate. Your mind instantly creates a narrative around that sensation. I was abandoned. I'm not worthy. My life is over. Samskara, volitional reaction aggregate. This story triggers a powerful urge to do something. Texting a harsh reply, drinking to cope, self-blame, or desperate clinging. The suffering does not lie in the initial sensation, Vedana, but in the story and the clinging, Samjna and Samskara, that you add to it. The liberation of labeling. The labeling technique acts as an impartial judge standing between Vedana and Samjna. When Vedana arises, Instead of letting it automatically trigger a story, you actively label it suffering or emptiness. Detaching samjna. This act of naming forces the mind to stop telling the story. It can't simultaneously be saying, "I'm the worst abandoned person in the world," and be quietly noting, "Anxiety, anxiety, anxiety." Restoring the pause. Labeling helps you maintain samadhi, concentration, part 15, and expand the pause long enough for the liberating intention, new karma, part 9, to arise. You see, labeling is the most practical way to apply the wisdom of Anatta, non-self, part 5. By naming the emotion, you have shifted from "I am angry" to "anger is happening." You are no longer the subject of the anger, you are its witness. Imagine you've just sent a resignation email or an important business proposal, and you're waiting for the manager-partner's reply. You know that answer could be life-changing. State without labeling. You continuously check your phone. Your mind races. What will they say? Will they laugh at me? Why is it taking so long? What if they reject me? I'm a failure. Restlessness and clinging samskara. State with labeling. Mindfulness. You sit down and practice. Tension appears in your stomach. You inwardly note tightness, constriction. The mind starts to imagine the worst-case scenario. You label it. Thinking, storytelling. Your hand starts reaching for the phone. You label it. Urge, clinging. You return to your breath, breathing in, breathing out. By consistently labeling, you anchor your mind to objective reality, the Rupa and Vedana aggregates happening, and prevent it from being swept away by the subjective anxiety script. Samjna. You have practiced kshanti, patience, endurance of the stressful feeling, without needing to react. Detailed practice technique. The 3 golden principles for effective labeling. Remember these 3 core principles. Principle 1. Simplicity and brevity. Always use a single word, not a sentence, and without judgment. Mental anxiety. Judging, regret, sadness, boredom, thinking, sensations. Hot, cold, ache, itch, pain. Tired activities. Seeing, hearing, walking, standing. Sitting, incorrect. I feel so sad because no one understands me. Correct. Sadness. Principle 2. Gentle companionship. Labeling is not about commanding or criticizing the feeling. It is a gentle acceptance that, this is happening. Do not push it away. Do not cling to it. The labeled feeling is like a guest, part 3. You just open the door, name them, and allow them to leave freely when they are done. Principle 3. Labeling impermanence. Labeling helps you clearly see the impermanence of all things. When you note anger, maintain samadhi. Wait. After 30 seconds, the intensity of the anger might subside. You continue to label lessening or stillness. This confirms to your mind, everything is a flow. This emotion is not my fixed permanent nature. The 15-second crisis exercise. The moment you feel a strong reaction, anger, anxiety, or craving arising, do this 15-second exercise. C. Sati, mindfulness. Stop. Notice where this reaction is manifesting in your body, chest, neck, stomach. Label samjna. Inwardly, label it with a single word, e.g., pressure. Breathe. samadhi. Take 3 deep breaths and label each one. Breathing in, breathing out. With just this trio, you have redirected the energy of the crisis from a destructive reaction toward liberating observation. You don't need to search for peace externally. You are already equipped with everything to find it within. Your power lies in your ability to label, to endure, kshanti, and to love unconditionally. Carry this map and begin your greatest journey. Living a life that is full, courageous, and awakened in every breath. We have traversed an extraordinary intellectual and spiritual journey. You have learned to face the ultimate truths of impermanence and non-self, Anatta, grasped the power of creating new karma through intention, and found peace through kshanti and the Four Immeasurables. All this wisdom aims at a single goal: to live an awakened life right now. But how do you protect the state of peace and the new energy you have painstakingly built? You need a protective fence, a robust defense system for your soul. That is the Pancha Sila, the 5 precepts. Most people view the 5 precepts: not to kill, not to steal, not to misconduct sexually, not to lie, not to drink alcohol intoxicants, as a strict set of laws. But in Buddhism, the precepts are not laws to be punished for violating. The precepts are a practical exercise in mindfulness to protect your energy and build confidence, creating the foundation for liberation. When you uphold the precepts, you are not doing something for the Buddha. You are doing the greatest thing for yourself. Protecting the energy of concentration, samadhi. The most basic purpose of observing the precepts is to safeguard your samadhi, stable concentration, and sati, mindfulness, alertness. What happens every time you violate a precept? Burden of guilt, regret. You automatically generate remorse, kukuka, and anxiety about karmic consequences, part 9 and 11. Mental restlessness. This regret prevents your mind from resting in the present. It forces the mind to constantly run away to the past, correcting mistakes, or worry about the future, consequences. Every violation of the precepts is an enormous drain on mental energy. Upholding the precepts is not a restriction. It is the most effective way to conserve spiritual energy, so that you have enough strength to maintain the pause, part 7, and develop wisdom. Analyzing the 5 precepts through an energy lens. Let's examine each precept through the lens of energy conservation. Precept 1. Not harming living beings. Panatipata viraman. The vow. I undertake the training rule to abstain from all acts that cause harm to any living being. Energy protected. Loving kindness. Metta. And inner safety. The meaning. When you harm other living beings, you invite fear, anger, and cruelty into your consciousness. This negative energy immediately shatters your inner peace. Upholding this precept is a declaration that my mind is a safe place, with no room for violence. Precept 2. Not taking what is not given. Adinadana viraman. The vow I undertake. The training rule to abstain from taking what is not freely given. This includes both material things and intangible assets like ideas or other people's time. Energy protected. Tranquility and contentment. This meaning, theft comes from greed, lobha, and a feeling of lack, the clinging, part 8. When you take from others, you create fear in your own mind, fear of being caught, and distrust in the community. Upholding this precept fosters contentment, santosha, and builds lasting trust. Precept 3. Avoiding sexual misconduct, kamesu michakara viraman. The vow I undertake the training rule to abstain from sexual misconduct or behaviors that cause harm to oneself and others due to sensual desire. Energy protected. Focus and quality of relationships. The meaning. Irresponsible or wrongful sexual conduct always involves chaos, guilt, and broken relationships. Broken relationships are one of the biggest drains on life energy. This precept is not about prohibition, but about safeguarding the quality of your samadhi, concentration, and the quality of your connections, allowing your mind to be free to focus on the goal of liberation. Precept 4. Not lying, Musavada Viraman. The vow. I undertake the training rule to abstain from false speech, malicious speech, divisive speech, and useless speech. This is the most important precept for mindfulness. Energy protected. Integrity and mindfulness. Sati. The meaning. Lying is the #1 enemy of mindfulness. To lie, the mind must constantly run backward in time to remember the fabricated story and run forward to ensure that story is maintained. This tension and mental effort prevents your mind from resting in the present moment. Mindfulness. Integrity is the easiest state for the mind to maintain. When you speak the truth, right speech, part 12, you free up all your mental energy to focus on the reality that is unfolding. Precept 5. Not consuming intoxicants. Suramaraya Majapamadatana Viraman. The vow. I undertake the training rule to abstain from using intoxicants that cloud the mind. Energy protected. Mindfulness, sati, and wisdom. Prajna. The meaning. All other precepts protect your actions and speech. The 5th precept protects the foundation of observation. Intoxicants destroy your ability to label feelings. Part 17. Dismantle the pause. Part 7. And prevent you from seeing the impermanence of reality. This is the precept that protects your capacity to know. Once the capacity for clear awareness is lost, the other precepts are almost certain to be violated. The armor of integrity. Imagine. Your mind is an armor made of energy and trust. When you uphold the precepts, you are reinforcing this armor. You don't have to fear the arrows of anxiety and regret because they cannot penetrate the shield of integrity. Your energy is preserved to focus on higher goals, the Four Immeasurables. When you violate the precepts, you create a crack in the armor. You lie. Precept 4. A crack appears. You worry about covering it up. Energy drain. You get intoxicated. Precept 5. The armor is taken off. You act impulsively, old karma. The result, you have to use all your energy to deal with the cracks and the consequences you yourself created. The precepts are freedom from your own burdens. Upholding the precepts affects not only you but also the interconnected web of dependent origination. Part 10. Around you. Self-trust. When you keep your promises to yourself, upholding the precepts, you are teaching your mind, I can trust my intention. I am a person of integrity. This trust is the foundation of true self-confidence. Community trust. When people around you know you uphold the precepts, you don't lie, you don't harm, they feel safe being with you. This safety allows compassion and sympathetic joy, part 16, to flourish. Instead of thinking of precepts as avoiding bad deeds, think of them as actively labeling, part 17, when the intention to violate a precept arises. The moment of balance. Exercise. Identify the trigger. When you feel the intention to lie, precept 4, or become intoxicated. Precept 5. Arise, create the pause. Part 7. Label the intention. Inwardly, note, intention to lie or intention to escape. Labeling. Part 17. Ask, right view. Ask yourself, will this action help me conserve energy? Will it create tranquility? Choose new karma. Then, act opposite to the old intention. Choose to speak the truth, even if difficult, or choose to drink water, even if boring. This is how you transform the 5 precepts into a daily mindfulness exercise, helping you win the battle on the small battlefield of the mind. The final refuge, the 3 jewels. We have entered the final chapter of this journey. You have been equipped with wisdom, prajna, morality, sila, and mental strength, samadhi. You have the 8-step survival map, the Eightfold Path, and the antibodies for the soul, the Four Immeasurables. But there is a simple truth the Buddha saw. Human beings are not meant to fight alone. Isolation is not just a social problem. It is one of the heaviest karma of the modern era. It reinforces the illusion of a separate self, part 5, making you believe your suffering is unique and that you must bear it alone. That is why, after finding the path, the Buddha established the 3 jewels as the ultimate refuge. Taking refuge in the Dharma and the Sangha, the wall against impermanence, the 3 jewels are the refuges of the Buddhist practitioner. The Buddha, the awakened one, the Dharma, the teachings, the truth, and the Sangha, the community of practitioners. If the Buddha is the exemplar, the Dharma and the Sangha are the 2 practical pillars that help you stand firm amidst the storms of life's impermanence. What is the Dharma? The Dharma is not books or scriptures. The Dharma is the truth, the natural law of the universe. When you take refuge in the Dharma, you are relying on what you have learned, impermanence. Everything changes. You rely on the truth that change is the only thing you can count on. Non-self. Everything is empty. You rely on the truth that there is no fixed self to protect, so there is nothing to lose. The Eightfold Path. There is always a way. You rely on the proven method to escape suffering. Imagine you are facing a complex lawsuit. You do not rely on your emotions, anger or fear. You rely on the law, Dharma, the set of unchanging, tested principles. Taking refuge in the Dharma is when your mind becomes chaotic with fear of failure, impermanence. You immediately label fear, part 17, and remind yourself, this is the rule. Suffering comes from clinging, not from the event. I will focus on the process, Eightfold Path, not the outcome. The Dharma is the map. It tells you exactly what is real and what is merely an illusion created by the mind. The Sangha, the convoy of consciousness. The Sangha, community, is the 3rd refuge. The Sangha is not just monks or nuns. The Sangha is any group of people who share the intention and effort to practice the Eightfold Path. Modern isolation destroys our spiritual practice for 3 key reasons. The unique suffering. Illusion when isolated. You tend to believe, only I am going through this pain. No one can understand my suffering. This belief is a type of negative karma. It activates samjña, storytelling, and leads to clinging to the uniqueness of the suffering, preventing you from seeing the truth of Anatta, that all beings share the same suffering. The Sangha breaks this illusion. When you listen to others share about their anxiety, self-blame, or loss, you realize, oh, I am not alone. This is the common suffering of humanity. This realization immediately lightens your burden. The patience failure you have learned the perfection of Kshanti, patience endurance, part 15. The ability to endure without reacting, but humans are prone to weakness. When you are tired, your Kshanti falters. You want to hit the old reaction button. Anger, lying, turning to intoxicants, violating the 5 precepts. The Sangha is the mindful fence. When you are about to collapse, you look over at the person next to you who is meditating or upholding the precept of truthfulness, and you are reminded, they can do it, so can I. The collective energy of samadhi, concentration, and right effort of the community automatically supports and sustains your individual patience. It is very difficult to uphold the 5 precepts. Part 18. Alone. The Sangha provides non-judgmental accountability. They don't have to say anything. Just knowing that you will meet with others who share the intention not to lie or consume intoxicants gives you extra motivation to uphold your esla, morality. This is a form of collective, positive new karma. You sow the intention not to violate the precepts, and the community together safeguards that intention. Imagine life is a ship on the ocean of impermanence. Your body is the ship. Wisdom, Dharma, is the map. You know where to go and which coral reefs, greed, hatred, delusion to avoid. Practice, Dharma, is the rudder. You can steer your direction, the Eightfold Path. Isolation, you are a solitary ship. When a storm comes, great suffering, you fight alone and are easily swept away. Sangha is the convoy, other ships also navigating the storm. Oh, they cannot steer your ship for you, but they provide visibility and presence. Oh, the energy from the convoy helps stabilize the waves around you. Oh, most importantly, when your ship is about to sink, intention wavers. They are there to pull you back up. Taking refuge in the Sangha is the acknowledgement that, although we must walk our path alone, we do not have to walk it in lonely darkness. You don't need to become an official member of a temple. The Sangha can be any place where you find a shared intention toward wakefulness. Identify, seek out 1-2 mindful milestones weekly. This could be, a group online meditation session. A weekly phone call with a spiritual friend to discuss only your practice, not gossip. A group studying Dharma texts or reading books together. Purpose. When participating, the focus is on sharing the process, effort, not the results, achievements. Share. This week, I found it very difficult to uphold the precept of non-judgment when talking to my colleague. Admitting old karma. Listen. This week, I successfully managed to create the pause when I felt anger. Learning new karma. In this way, you turn connection into a real energy shield for your soul. The urgent tool. Meditation on death. We have reached the end of this survival code journey. You have been equipped with all the tools to face every instance of impermanence and non-self that life throws at you. You have learned how to live, not just survive. We will now put all the pieces together so you can carry this light of awakening into every moment of your life. we will place all the wisdom you have learned, impermanence, non-self, new karma, kshanti, the Four Immeasurables, into a single urgent tool, meditation on death, Maranasati. It sounds heavy, but this is one of the most powerful spiritual practices for liberation that the Buddha taught. If life is the asset we possess, then death is the strict asset manager, constantly reminding us of our time limit. Meditation on death, living. Urgently, death is the ultimate expression of impermanence. We began this journey by accepting Anicca, impermanence, the constant change of all things. Part 1. Death is not a special event. It is the natural and inevitable consequence of impermanence applied to the rupa aggregate, the body. Part 6. You change every second. Old cells die. New cells are born. You change every day. This morning you were optimistic. This afternoon you are anxious. Death is simply the irreversible change of life. Yet, we spend our entire lives imagining that death is something far away, only happening to others. This concealment of the truth of death is the greatest source of procrastination and regret. The purpose of meditation on death is not to be fearful, but to clearly see the truth and live more urgently. 2. Life-changing questions. Meditation on death is about asking yourself 2 simple but radical questions to break the illusion of permanence and activate right effort. Part 12. Question 1. Could I die right now? You don't need to be old or sick. Accidents, strokes, or anything else can happen. Wisdom applied, breaking the clinging to the future. Part 8. Result. When you realize that your last breath could come at any moment, you immediately see the futility of wasting energy on trivial things. Oh, old reaction. I'm going to hold a grudge against this friend for a week. Oh, urgent living. If this were my final moment, would I want to waste it on a grudge, or would I use it to practice forgiveness and compassion? Death forces you to bring all your compassion and wisdom into the present moment. Question 2. What is most important if I only had 24 hours left? This question helps you redefine your right livelihood and right view. Part 12. Old reaction. Working extra hours for more money, arguing on social media, worrying about criticism, urgent living. Spending time with loved ones, saying thank you, practicing mindfulness, and the Four Immeasurables. Living urgently doesn't mean living in a hurry. It means living with clear intention, not wasting a single moment on thoughtlessness. Meditation on death and karma. Death is the moment when all the new. Karma, Part 9. You have sown will be tallied. The Buddha taught that the most important factor at the moment of death is your final state of mind. If you die in a state of anger, you are sowing negative karmic fruit for your next life or for the next sequence of moments. A state of loving kindness, metta, you are sowing positive karmic fruit. This shows that the purpose of the practice of awakening is not to have a perfect life, but to be able to die in peace and wisdom. When you meditate on death daily, you are creating a mental habit, a new samskara, of choosing compassion over anger, so that when the final moment comes, it is not a fresh choice, but an automatic, liberating habit. Imagine life is a long journey, and you have a suitcase, body and possessions to check in. The reality of impermanence. At the final checkpoint, You can only take your carry-on luggage, karma intention. The suitcase must be left behind. The careless liver spends their entire time decorating and protecting the suitcase, clinging to houses, fame, money. In the final moment, they are filled with regret and despair at having to let go. The urgent liver, awakened, they take reasonable care of the suitcase, body, and responsibilities, but all their energy is invested in preparing the carry-on luggage, accumulating the four immeasurables: forgiveness, gratitude, and samadhi. Meditation on death is the exercise that checks if your carry-on luggage is ready. You don't need to meditate for hours on death, just 1 minute in the morning. Body mindfulness. Sit or stand up. Place your hand on your chest. Note your heartbeat and breath. Label: breathing in, breathing out. Contemplation. Inwardly repeat these 3 phrases and feel their vibration in your body. Phrase 1. Death is certain. Death is certain. My life is impermanent. Phrase 2. Time is uncertain. The time I have left is uncertain. My final breath could come at any time. Phrase 3. Urgent action. Only compassionate intention and wisdom can help me. I will not postpone my practice until tomorrow. Action. Get up and do the most important thing you have been procrastinating. Send that apology. Start your samadhi practice, or speak a loving word. That apology. Start your samadhi practice, or speak a loving word. This is how you turn underlying fear into the purest motivation. The complete survival code. This is all you need to live a life of freedom and meaning. Wisdom, Dharma. Impermanence, non-self-dependent origination action. Eightfold Path. The practical path, tools, concentration, morality, labeling. Patience, 5 precepts. Purpose, 4 immeasurables. Loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity, protection, Sangha, the awakened community, activation, meditation on death, living urgently. Our journey through the material has concluded, but your real journey is just beginning. We have traveled together through this great spiritual path, from the deepest caves of impermanence and non-self, through the dense forests of greed, hatred, and delusion, and finally, we have found the path back to the most peaceful place, our own heart. You haven't just read a text, you have completed a survival course for the mind. Liberation in a single moment. Your suffering doesn't come from what life does to you, but from clinging to the idea that things should be otherwise. When you accept this ultimate truth, your entire burden is released. You have learned how to protect your energy from external chaos. The 5 precepts are not laws, but a fence protecting your mental energy from regret and guilt, helping you maintain samadhi. The Sangha, community, is the mindful fence that helps you stand firm when your patience wears thin, reminding you that you are not alone on this journey. Your breath. When you are anxious about the future, return to the breath, mindfulness. When you regret the past, return to the breath, forgiveness. When you are angry at someone, create the pause and label the anger with a deep breath, kshanti, patience. The breath is the eternal anchor of awakening. You are equipped with everything. No storm out there can be greater than the peace you have built within. Living an awakened life doesn't mean avoiding suffering, but knowing how to meet it with an unbound heart. Carry this freedom, courage, and love with you. Live each day with the urgency of one who realizes that death is the ultimate truth, and therefore life is the ultimate opportunity to sow the seeds of compassion. Go out, hold fast to your intention, and live the life you have liberated for yourself. That is the final and greatest message of the Buddha. If you found value in this video, I invite you to like to spread positive energy. Share to sow more seeds of peace with your friends and loved ones. Subscribe to journey together in exploring Buddhist wisdom and healing every day, because happiness is not a personal matter, but a path we walk together.